Hello and welcome back to my humble show. So this particular video is going to be about life. What is life? Let me know in the comments below, but if you ask me, I say life is visiting your in-laws for the day with your wife and child, returning home at the end of the day, hopping out of your car, dropping your phone onto the ground, and apparently ruining the screen. That's right, the phone is on, the screen is not. It looks like I'm going to have to buy another phone tomorrow. Technically today, because it is currently 5 o'clock in the morning and I haven't yet gone to sleep. So I need to get some rest and then get a new phone. But that's life. I'm not looking forward to that, but that's life. And I'm blessed to be living it. Charlie Kirk, on the other hand, had his life taken from him by a coward at far too young an age. And I'm going to talk a bit about that. I've been talking about that in my last couple of videos, but I have some more thoughts to share with you. Thoughts about those who have been celebrating his life, but more specifically about those who have been celebrating his death. And there are a lot of those people. Yes, some of them are getting fired, as they should, if you ask me. If you in America are celebrating politically driven assassinations, your company has every reason to say, you know what? You don't really represent us very well. It's just not effective messaging. It's just not ethical messaging. I'm not for cancel culture, boycotting, all of that on a grand scale, or generally speaking. But if you're, clapping it up when someone gets capped just because you disagree with them, I don't think you deserve a job. I really don't. I think you need to work on yourself. Just a thought. But yes, I know people who have been saying things like, never cry when your oppressor dies. You can't say anything to these people. If you say something like, if you are celebrating the literal assassination of someone simply because you disagree with them, that kind of makes you the oppressor. They won't hear it. They can't. They're deaf to such reason. They're blind to such reason. They will say things like, what about this, that, and the other thing? This other injustice is happening somewhere in the country or somewhere in the world. Why are you not talking about that instead? Now, they have their own cause, their own calling. They think they're calling you out, Someone has just died. You're thinking about it. They're like, why are you not thinking about that other thing? Well, as a non-political example, when someone else died, say Kobe Bryant. Granted, that wasn't an assassination. Wasn't even in public. In front of thousands of young people. I wasn't online as people mourned left and right, saying, what about this other person who just died? What? Why are you not talking about them, you hypocrite? Why are you talking about Kobe Bryant? Why are you mourning Kobe Bryant right now? You should be mourning someone else. People are reaching back a ways right now. They're listing everyone else who has died that fits their narrative. It's like, you're talking about Charlie Kirk's. Why are you not talking about the Hortmans who were murdered as part of an attempt at a political killing spree, a politically driven killing spree several months ago. That was also horrible. But I did not see a chunk of the population celebrating it. I didn't see that then. And also, another big difference, once again, would be that this involved a historical figure, in a sense. Charlie Kirk was a multi-generational inspiration, a leader, a thought leader, someone who made it his life's calling to debate disagreement in public, in front of thousands of people, all around the world. When someone like that is murdered doing that very thing, it's newsworthy. You know, imagine when MLK was killed, and the news was making its way around. Everyone was talking about it. If Joe so-and-so would have come up to someone else and said, "Why are you talking about this? Do you not care about this other thing that happened months ago or whenever?" You know, too many times, if someone we love dies, and someone else comes up to us and tries to make it all about yet another person who has died, we say that's disrespectful. You know, if I've just lost someone I love, and you come up to me and you start talking about someone else, make it all about that someone else. Like, okay, that's rude. Okay, then what if I get online and when someone I don't like dies, I do the exact same thing that I've previously called rude, simply because it's someone I don't like, rather than someone I love? You picking up what I'm putting down? This is simple stuff. I'm not just talking about Charlie Kirk. General rules of thumb here. Things that should be applicable in many different situations in life and death. Things to think about. People prefer brain rot these days over thought exercises. But I do have a few headlines to run through before I read off my own thread of thought. So let me pull up just a few headlines here from the New York Post, because I've been sharing so many threads of thought. I haven't really even covered most of the news about this whole situation, this whole assassination situation. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin Tyler Robinson lived with transgender partner. That's right. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin Tyler Robinson was living with a transgender partner who was in the process of transitioning from male to female, a law enforcement source confirmed to the Post Saturday. So another recent trans-involved shooting, though in this case it's quite different, since we're merely talking about the partner / roommate or whatever being transgender or being a furry. I've been seeing some things about that as well, but I don't really want to get into all of that. More will probably come out about not just Tyler Robinson, but anyone in his immediate environment. I know that his family was much more right-leaning than him. He was, in fact, or at least allegedly, the only leftist in his family. So some Democrats, Congress people even, have been saying the shooter was from a Republican family, and they've been leaving out the fact that he was the exact opposite of that altogether. That's very misleading, but that's people cherry-picking, nitpicking, whatever information they can to try to make this murder, this assassination, fit their narrative. Reminds me of how how there are certain people on the left who argue that, well, black people committing crime, that's the fault of white people because of years of oppression. Okay, they'll apply the similar or the same logic here. If you have a leftist shooter from a Republican family, they'll say, years of these Republicans ruining his life. His Republicans in his life, his Republican family, they ruined his life. And therefore, they're the ones to blame. They're the real oppressors here. It's brain rot. Pretzel logic. I say if the shoe fits, wear it. Stop cutting holes in the shoe to try to make it fit. Another headline from the New York Post. Charlie Kirk's accused assassin Tyler Robinson bragged about long-term shooting skills. Charlie Kirk's accused assassin Tyler Robinson once bragged about his long-range shooting skills, a former co-worker said Saturday during an exclusive interview with the Post. Would be interesting to know if he was someone who wanted to ban such weapons. Assault rifles and such. Which, no, that's not what AR stands for. But yes, they would like to take the guns away of law-abiding citizens and leave us more prone than ever to the violence of those who aren't law-abiding, clearly. A lot of people making this about guns. It's all about guns when there's nothing else to focus on. Nothing else that fits the narrative anyways. Here's something from another New York Post article. Bullets recovered from the assassination had etchings on them, including, if you read this, "You are gay," LMAO, and "Hey fascists," catch. Yeah, that was aimed at the conservative debater, Charlie Kirk. Riddle me this. Year after year after year, we hear from Democrats who say that the rhetoric of Republicans is directly responsible for violence. If violence is from right to left, or from white to black, or straight to anything else, it's Trump's America. It's suddenly Trump's America. That's what they say. This is Trump's America. It's his rhetoric, so on and so forth. But they themselves have literally been calling Trump and other Republicans / conservatives fascists for the longest time now. So then someone literally has upon their weapons the words, "Hey fascist, catch." And yet Democrats take no responsibility whatsoever. Nancy Pelosi said something about this. Many other people in politics said something about this already, making excuses for themselves. And, I'm not blaming anyone directly except for the actual shooter himself. And these are just conspiracies at this point. But if anyone else was complicit in his crime, then it's also their fault. But no, the one holding the weapon, not the weapon, not even the people who called Charlie Kirk a fascist. I mean, people say things. Donald Trump says things. Especially in politics, this sort of language is used all the time by both sides. But I'm just saying, if your standard is words either incite or equate to violence, then you got to hold yourself and your own side to the same standard. And Democrats don't do that. They don't. They take no responsibility in any of this. In fact, they're still finding ways to blame Donald Trump's rhetoric for this. Or to blame Charlie Kirk himself. I've seen so many different commentators talking about how Charlie Kirk and all of his hateful language, that's what leads to this sort of thing. It's pitiful. It's pathetic. But here are a few thoughts, if they seem like they're personally directed at people I know. Well, it's with those people in mind. It is. Because I shared this on my personal Facebook account first and foremost. It made its way here, and I'm just going to read it off for you. And again, you can let me know what you think down in the comments below. It's astounding to me how people who literally celebrate the murder of those they disagree with simultaneously believe they're in any position of moral superiority whatsoever to scold others for not caring enough about their own preferred category of humans. And I have in mind here people who say, you were silent about this, that, and the other thing. So therefore, you're in no position to talk about this. Of course, they themselves are just as selective as what they're claiming I am, as what they're claiming you are if you care about this. Everything is selective to them. Everything is subjective to them. And therefore, I'll read the rest of this. Their contention isn't that all murders should be condemned, since they themselves do not believe in such a concept. They merely rely on whataboutism to justify their own ultimate devaluation of life. And in reality, someone like me could condemn every injustice the world has ever known one by one, and they'd still be picking and choosing which lives they care about. My friend, if you cannot even comprehend why life itself matters in the first place, you're in no position to be bickering over which life matters in any case. And if you believe, as I do, that we're all made in the image of God and therefore have value, then you should be striving to win hearts, minds, and ultimately souls, instead of actively advocating for violence. If you yourself believe that we only even exist today through some evolutionary series of survival of the fittest societies, then sparking some sort of revolutionary pursuit of life and liberty is going to be a self-defeating purpose for you. And if you believe that all lives matter because of the sacrifice of the one who gave you his life as a sacrifice so that any life might matter, then you should take a step back and reflect upon your own life for a moment instead of protecting your own plank while projecting specks into the eyes of others. Be blessed. What is life? If you cannot even comprehend why life itself matters in the first place, you're in no position to be bickering over which life matters in any case. And if you believe, as I do, that we're all made in the image of God and therefore have value, then you should be striving to win hearts, minds, and ultimately souls, instead of actively advocating for violence. Too many people have been advocating for violence, been celebrating it, hoping for the next assassination. It's sick, it's twisted. I hope there is a revolution, not the kind they're looking for. Some would call it a spiritual awakening. Some would say it's equally political. But when you look around and after someone who's being called such a hero and a martyr is murdered, and you see peaceful vigils, candle lightings, singing songs of amazing grace in the streets, in the day, in the night, around the country, around the world, and you compare that to, say, a few years ago when there were riots in the streets, city to city, there's quite a difference. We're not talking about two sides of the same coin here. We're talking about two different sides of history. I, for one, want to be on the right side of it. Don't you? Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Keep in touch. Keep in new content is coming soon. Peace.